Welcome boys to another video. In this video, I'm going to be ranking every single dungeon set in Hypixel Skyblock. I actually did this video almost a year ago, but this was only when up to floor 3 was released. So now there are a lot more sets, and we have all the way up to floor 7 and master mode 6. So I decided it was a good time to redo this video. If you guys do end up enjoying this video and want me to make another one for every armor set in the game, let's see if we can get 5,000 likes. I know that's really insane because I don't think I've ever got anywhere close to that, but if we can do that, I'll definitely make that video. Usually I would say now something about subscribing or something like that, but instead, if you guys do enjoy my videos, I would highly appreciate it if you go and follow my Twitch in the link in the description, because I've been streaming there a lot, and if you want to catch any of the streams on the speedrun to Hyperion series and see if I get the handle, then you want to go there. So if you guys can do that, that would be heavily appreciated, and if you want, you can sub to the channel. Now let's get straight into it. Quickly, before we get into it, let me just go over the different tiers I have made for this tier list. We have F tier, which is literally a joke. Then D tier, which is waste of money. Then we have C tier, which is I guess you could use it. Then B tier, best for value. And A tier, best in the business. And S tier, must buys. Now that that's taken care of, let's get straight into the tier list. First, we've got Rod and Boots. Rod and Boots aren't the best gear in the game, and they're not the worst gear in the game, but they're pretty decent. Outside of dungeons, they're actually very good as a really easy dungeon set you can use for free strength, and I think in some cases it's actually better than strong armor. So it's kinda insane if you're really early game. So I'm going to be putting it in B tier for best for value. Then we have Skeleton Grunt Boots. No one really plays early game archer because all the archer weapons actually need like a little bit of like good gear to use. So usually I don't think any of the grunt set is really worth it. So I'm going to be putting it in I guess you could use it. This also goes for Skeleton Soldier and Skeleton Master Boots. I would say in general it's better to just have a damage set than any of these skeleton sets. So I'm going to be putting the rest of it also in I guess you could use it. Then we got Heavy Boots. Heavy Boots are basically the best tank boot in the game for very early game. So if you are trying to tank at a lower floor or you're really poor, then Heavy Boots are actually pretty good. So I'm going to be putting this in best for value because it's so cheap, it really isn't that big of a deal. Same with Super Heavy Boots, they're just as cheap, so I'm going to be putting this in A tier or B tier as well, best for value. Then we got Zombie Soldier and Zombie Knight. Zombie Soldier is a pretty good set and actually used to be like almost as good as Adaptive from floor 1 to 3. And Zombie Knight is basically just a better version of Zombie Soldier. And these are actually sets that even I use on my other profile. So part of these sets are very useful. So I would say these are very good for their value. And I'm pretty sure a floor 7 Zombie Knight chestplate is in some cases outside of dungeons just as good or slightly worse than a Necron's chestplate. So I would definitely say that these are probably some of the best for value dungeon items in the entire game. Next, we have the Zombie Lord Boots. To be honest, I didn't even know these boots existed before I made this video, so I really don't know if it's worth it. And looking at the lowest bin of 100k, it seems like probably it would be better to get a Zombie Knight piece, so I'm going to be putting this in I guess you could use it. The Zombie Commander Boots are basically the same. I didn't even know they existed before I started making this video, and they seem just as good as any of the other zombie pieces, maybe slightly worse, but they are a little bit more expensive, so I would say I guess you could use this. So Skeletor boots are actually supposed to be pretty good. I remember a lot of people were talking about after the strength nerf that it would be better than a lot of other sets, but I think something was wrong with the calculations or something, and people really don't use it. I talked to some guild members and they said that basically Zombie Knight is just as good or better for roughly the same or cheaper. So I'm going to be putting this in I guess you could use this. Next, we have bouncy boots, which are I don't even know what they're used for. They're kind of dead, to be honest, but they seem to be okay. They don't really have any reason, so I would probably put this in literally a joke. Next, we have the Skeleton Lord set, and to be honest, it's pretty garbage. Like, even if you're just getting one piece, it's already pretty bad. The main thing about it is that its full set bonus, I guess, is decent at a very lower game. Usually, if you're like decent at the game, it won't add up to much, this full set bonus. And first of all, you probably shouldn't be using the full set because it's kind of bad. So I would say this is not the best set to use, and especially when the lowest bin is like 100k. That's kinda a pretty big sign that it's a waste of money. I've never seen someone use a sniper helmet. It looks cool. I guess its ability that it increases damage to arrows by 1% for every 2 blocks traveled, up to 10% basically because of 20 blocks. I guess it's kind of cool, but in dungeons it's like impossible to actually snipe stuff because the rooms are made so compact, and that's why bows like the Juju bow and the boomerangs, which are close range, perform so well. So I would probably say that this item is literally a joke. Now we are on to the actually good sets. Next, we got the Bonzo's Mask. The Bonzo's Mask isn't that good as just like a normal helmet, but its ability is extremely good in almost all the dungeon floors. I don't know how many Master Mode players use it, but I know even a lot of late game and end game people who are doing floor 7 use it just in case so they don't die. And because of that, I think it's actually a really good item, and almost everyone should buy this just in case, so they can just swap it on if they're about to die. So this is definitely going in a must buy. Next, we have the golden heads. This is just a golden bonzo head, but just pretend it represents all the golden heads. So I would say the golden heads are actually also very, very good. From what I know, they almost outclass every single other helmet if you're using it in the correct floor, obviously. So it's a very good item, and even if it doesn't outclass, let's say a warden helmet, it doesn't reduce your speed like a warden helmet, so that's a huge plus from it. So I would definitely say that if you're doing any of the higher floors, or even if you're low leveled, because a lot of them are really cheap, like the bonzo head is like 100k, if you're struggling with the floor, definitely getting a golden bonzo head is a must buy, or just a golden head in general. Now we have this diamond helmet, which I called the diamond Necron head. This is just all the diamond heads. The diamond heads are pretty needless, like they're really expensive but not that useful for how expensive they are. Most people will never need to use one, but obviously if you're a huge dungeon sweat or you're doing a really hard floor like M6 or M5, obviously having a diamond head will be very useful. So I'm going to be putting this in A tier for best in the business, because that's what it is. Next, we have adaptive boots. To be honest, adaptive is not very good of a set anymore. When it came out, obviously it was very good because you could only go up to floor 3, but now it's kind of trash. So I would really say going for Zombie Knight would be better. So if you're not going for Zombie Knight, I guess you could use it, but you really should. Then we have Shadow Assassin. Shadow Assassin is a very good set and can get you a long way, all the way up to even floor 7 if you have a very good party, just because of the massive strength it gives. Plus, if you have a Baby Yeti, that gives you a lot of EHP. So I would definitely say Shadow Assassin at one point, assuming you're like a Berserker or an Archer, is definitely a must buy at some point in the game. Necromancer Lord is also kinda good. It's mainly a mix of a mage and tank set together. You can probably skip it usually, but if you do need a decent tanking set with a little bit of mana, I would definitely say this is a pretty good set to use, and it's definitely not a must buy or the best in the business, but I would say it's pretty good for its value. Then we have Wither Boots. I'm pretty sure Wither Boots are worse than Necromancer if they're not actually turned into any of the 4 different variants. So this is actually going to be in, I guess you could use it, because there's really no reason to use it unless it's in one of its forms. Now onto the 4 Wither Boots forms. We got Maxor Boots, which are basically useless. I think Maxor is only used mainly its boots for a little bit of speed, but even like other than that, I think Spirit Boots are better. So I'm probably gonna end up putting this in a waste of money. Next we have Goldor's Boots. Goldor's Boots are actually pretty good. They are mainly used for people who are obviously playing tank, and if you are a high level tank for let's say M5, M6 or any of those higher floors, these are really good, and especially if you're a tank in any stage of the game basically, these are the go-to set. So I'm definitely gonna be putting this in best in the business. Then we got Storm Set. Storm Set is like basically the best set for clearing in the game other than in any of the master mode floors, but in floor 1 to 7 a Storm Set is so good for clearing, especially if you have a Hyperion or any really good mage weapon. So you definitely need to get this, even if you are an archer or a berserker or a tank even, or even a healer. Any class basically, a Storm Set is really good for clearing in like floor 7 because the mobs are so weak. A Hyperion and a Storm Set can be used anywhere, no matter your class. So I would definitely say that this is a must buy. Necron Set, basically the same thing. You don't use it if you're a mage or like a class that doesn't need damage, but outside of dungeons, everyone needs this. It's the best damage set in the game. It's really good in dungeons if you are a damage class. So basically, almost everyone needs to buy this anyway, so I'm also going to be putting this in a must buy. Then we got the Spirit Boots. The Spirit Boots are almost the same thing. They are so versatile in dungeons, and if you can already do pretty decent damage and not die with 3/4 Storm, then putting a Spirit Boots instead of Storm Boots will be extremely useful because it gives you a lot of speed, and it's a really good ability if you're trying to cheese trap. So I definitely think at some point in the game you should definitely buy one pair of these. Now we got the Healer Helmet. So the Mender Helmet, this is the lowest level 1, but it's really cheap, so I'm definitely going to put this in best for value if you are a healer. Then we got the Mender Fedora. This is also very cheap. Well, not very cheap, but it's pretty cheap, and it's really good for healers, so this will also go in best for value. Then we got the Mender's Crown. Yes, I didn't feel like buying one, so I just renamed one with the Anihura name. Don't come at me. But the Mender's Crown is really good for healers. It's a little bit more expensive, but it is the best you can get, so obviously it's going in best in the business. Now we have the Precursor Eye. The Precursor Eye is kinda useless. It's extremely expensive, so I would only say if you're like trying to grind Zealots or Zealots or whatever outside of dungeons, I guess it's kinda useful, but not the most useful. I really just think it's a waste of money, to be honest. Then we got Dark Goggles. Super cheap, increase ability damage and give you some intelligence. If you're a low level mage, it's going to be something you use, so definitely best for value. Next we've got the Shadow Goggles, which are basically just like the Dark Goggles. They're just a little bit better and require a little bit more coins and a higher kata requirement, but other than that, they are really good, and you can get them for very cheap by buying off the AH instead of the NPC. So I'm going to be putting this in best for value. And now we got wither goggles. I don't feel like using my actual wither goggles, and I didn't feel like buying a new one. So here are my wither goggles, and wither goggles are extremely good. If you are doing any sort of clearing with a mage set, you need to buy one of these. So unlike the other ones, I'm actually going to be putting this in a must buy. And finally, we have the stone chest plates, the metal chest plate, and the steel chest plate. I didn't feel like buying it. From what I heard from a lot of tanks, to be honest, this is not the most useful set from what I've heard from them. It does give you like the most defense, I do think, but in the terms of EHP, it's not that useful. And from what most of the tanks I heard say, they said it's probably just a waste of money. So because the stone one is so cheap, I'll be putting it in, I guess you could use it. Same with the metal one. Actually, the metal one's a little bit too expensive. I'm going to be putting both of these in just a waste of money. Well, that's it. I think I ranked every single dungeon set in the game as of now. And if I did miss anything, make sure to go and leave a comment. I'll try to like fix it later or something, or address it in a different video if we do get the 5,000 likes to do another video ranking every single set. But other than that, that's all I got for the video, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.